guys, today I had to make a pumpkin themed baby shower cake for a client. So I'm using Rice Krispy Treats for the inside of the large pumpkin to keep the weight down. If I had used all fondant, it would have been just way too heavy, it wouldn't have dried right. And here I'm setting it up on a 6-inch pan just to kind of get an idea on how large I need it to be as I work on it. I first cover it in a layer of white fondant, just like a crumb coat. You know, I'm trying to fill in all the little bumps and cracks and make it smoother so that when I do the final coat of orange fondant, it'll look better. Now, the second coat needs to be pretty thick. I wish I had made it a little thicker than what I did here. I think it would have looked better. It would have performed better. Here I'm just pinching it off. I want the bottom to be flat so it'll sit nice on the cake. I don't want to make it too roly-poly. Once I get it on, and while the fondant is soft, I use a modeling tool to make the grooves to make it look like a pumpkin. I'm having a bit of an issue of my gloves leaving prints in the fondant. It was so annoying. I eventually end up having to ditch the gloves altogether. And yes, I wash my hands. I would never work on somebody's cake without clean hands. I'm dusting the pumpkin with a darker colored orange dust to add some depth to the color. It looks better in person than it does on the camera. And here I'm making the top of the pumpkin. The baby is going to be coming like it was coming out or sitting inside the pumpkin. I'm going to have the little lid sitting beside it. And here I'm just adding grooves to try to make it look like wood. I give the top a quick dust and then I start working on the baby. Now I've switched to using modeling chocolate to create the baby. And I do that because it's easier to work with than fondant when you're sculpting. And I could have used modeling chocolate to cover the pumpkin, but you can't get it as thin as you can fondant. So fondant's better to work for something like that. I made a whole video on when to use what, and I will include a link to it in the description down below. So check that video out. It'll go over, you know, when to use modeling, when to use fondant, when to use royal icing, and so on. I'm painting with black gel food coloring. It's not diluted, it's just straight from the bottle to add the facial details like the smile and the eyebrows and some eyelashes. I also use a touch of pale pink dust to add a little color to the cheeks. Now what I don't show is I added a toothpick to the pumpkin in order to stick the head on. I don't know how that didn't get recorded, but I can't find it anywhere. And I make some little hands to stick under him, and he's done, and now it's on to the cake. This is a 6-inch yellow cake with strawberry cream filling. I've torted the layers, and I'm making a buttercream dam around the edge to keep the filling from oozing out. You have to do that when you're using a runny type filling. I also made a video on how to properly fill a cake, so I will include a link to that in the description box below also. Now for the crumb coating. And yes, I made a video about that as well. I'll include a link to that in the description down below. But to recap, you take some of your buttercream, you thin it down with water, don't get it too thin. And then you go over the cake to seal in all the crumbs, pop it in the fridge, and let it chill to get firm. It's so much easier to ice a cake that is chilled. This is an 8-inch bottom cake. It's a chocolate cake with chocolate chip filling. I had already leveled, filled, crumb coated it. It had chilled. And now I'm putting the buttercream on it. I'm using just a decorating bag with a coupler, no tip, and then I go over it with a warm spatula. when you have like little divots or whatever you want to call those where I've missed, just add some more buttercream and then go back over it. Smooth it down. Now normally I would smooth with a paper towel, but she's wanting this kind of rustic design where you use a spatula, and I have to use it as soft. This is a crusting buttercream that I'm decorating with, so I need to actually work pretty quickly here to get the lines in before it sets up. It's a very easy design. You just go over it with your spatula. Now you have to clean off the spatula between each row. I'm a little wonky here with my rows, but she kind of wanted that real, I don't know. They call it a rustic look. I don't know what to call it. I'm not a big fan of this design. I mean, it's okay. I can think of a lot of other things that I think would be prettier. But that's how you do it. Now I've put it back in the fridge. I've got it cold, and now I'm doweling. And why, yes, I do have a video on how to dowel cakes the proper way, because believe it or not, a lot of people do it wrong. So I'll include a link to that. Check it out when you get done with this video. It is very helpful. And I am about to attach the top cake. Now I'm attaching it, usually I will have iced the top cake completely, and then I would have put it in the fridge. I would have let it get cold, and then I would set it on. But again, you have to have soft buttercream in order to do that design. So I had to put it on with just a crumb coat and ice it and do everything while it's sitting on top of the other cake. I don't like doing it that way. You know, you run the risk of hitting the bottom cake, you know, and messing it up. And I'm sorry about the filming. I have a big window. You can't see it in the video, but I didn't realize the sun was shining in as much as it was, and it was creating a glare. I'm going to have to change where I decorate in order to film. I'll have to go on the other side of the kitchen. Sorry about that, but it's the same procedure that I did down below, where you just go over it. And then I smooth out the top, and I'm going to attach, see, the spatula messed up some of the cake down below. And I run a dowel all the way through the cake to attach the top cake to the bottom cake. That way it won't move when it's in transportation. You don't want it sliding around, because you never know how your customers drive. Now here I'm back. I'm making a sign, and how you make a sign look like wood is you'll take your fondant. This is fondant. You could do it out of modeling chocolate if you wanted to. Modeling chocolate would be a little bit heavier. So, and I want this to go on the side of the cake. So you make your grooves like wood, you know, and then you start making these lines and add like a little, you see how I made that little curve to make it look like a knot in the wood? And you just lightly go through that to get it a wood, you know, like it's a wooden sign. Then I dust it with Super Pearl, because, you know, I like everything shiny. And then I'm using thin buttercream and a tip number 2 to write the message on it. And then I will put this on the side of the cake. And here we have the final cake. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing. I hope you all learned something. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.